trouble with women...
Yes?
Well, not you, of course, Ellen. Other women. Believe me, her, too. The trouble with women is they're always asking you to talk to them or to their children. Communication has become the most overworked word in the English language that has more than 4 letters in it. Hi. I know her by now, and she knows me. We've developed a beautiful bond of solitude that suits us both.
John, what sort of a greeting was that for a man to give his only daughter?
Well, it was brief, but heartfelt.
May I speak to you inside?
This is my world, and welcome to it.
Tells me that Lydia is becoming increasingly moody and hostile to the other children at school, particularly the male children.
Well, that certainly never got a woman anything except maybe a spot on the softball team.
It's obviously an extension of her lack of communication with you. I'm used to it. Your preoccupation, I'm used to being ignored.
Now, Ellen.
I'm not complaining. But how do you suppose Lydia feels?
Well, actually, we've never discussed it.
That's exactly what I mean, John. How do you ever expect her to feel that she can come to you and ask your advice on things like love and marriage and how to select a husband?
How a woman selects a husband or where elephants go when they die are 2 of the unsolved riddles of nature. Now, I am hardly the one to solve them.
That, my dear husband, is known as weaseling out.
Look, all the cartoons I did this week were about her, so you see she hasn't been out of my mind all day.
Is that why you came home 2 hours late?
2 hours late for what?
It was a lovely birthday party.
Her birthday? Oh, I'm sorry. I knew it was sometime around this month.
Your daughter is 11 years old today. I kissed her for both of us.
Well, I appreciate it.
How long has it been since you've kissed your daughter, John?
Not since she discovered licorice.
She is sitting out there on the porch feeling unloved and forgotten while her father is in here telling vaudeville jokes to her mother.
I'm sorry. I'll go out there and make it up to her. What do I say?
How about saying, hello, darling?
Isn't that going a little bit overboard?
No, it isn't. And chuck her under the chin.
Chuck her under the chin?
Yes, you know.
Girls like that?
They go mad about it.
When I think of all the time I wasted nibbling on the lobes of ears.
Oh, John, one other thing.
What?
Pick her up and give her a playful little toss into the air, you know?
What about my disc?
Well, John, try it. If you feel a sharp pain, put her down.
Hello, darling. I said, hello, darling.
To me?
Well, yes, I was trying to make amends for forgetting your birthday. I really and truly am sorry. I would have enjoyed being at your party with all your little friends.
It's okay, Daddy. I know you've got a lot on your mind.
Well, that's very understanding of you. However, as long as we're here, is there anything you'd like to have a heart-to-heart talk with me about?
Like what?
Like who you're going to marry and how many children you're going to have and how you're going to have them.
Oh, you don't have to bother. They're teaching that in the 6th grade now.
Really? I got thrown out of the 6th grade just for asking. That's why I was so anxious to get on to college.
Anything else?
Oh, yes.
What's that?
That's a chin chuck. Girls love it.
They do?
Well, I have it on the highest authority. Your mother.
Do you like it?
Everybody likes it.
Irving doesn't like it.
Irving wouldn't like crepe Suzette's flambe unless they contained human flesh.
I guess you're right. It's getting kind of cold. I think we better go in.
Right. Oh, here we go. Get away. This is love, Irving, love. L-O-V-E. Dumb dog. Can't spell. Get away from me. That clucking sound you hear is Miss Skidmore, Lydia's 5th grade teacher, about to lay another egg.
Oh, my stars and garters.
She's the only one left who still says that.
Leonard, Lydia, I've kept you after school to discuss your constant bickering.
She's always saying I'm doing something to when I'm not.
Children, I will not tolerate this. Is that clear?
I'm sorry, Miss Skidmore. He upsets me.
I understand. After you've been publicly humiliated in print.
Humiliated? Me? You don't even know what that means.
Leonard, you may go. I want to speak to Lydia alone. You've seen this?
Sure, that's how my daddy earns his living.
Oh, that's how my daddy earns his living. Exactly what Antigone said about Oedipus Rex.
Yes, ma'am. All cartoonists earn their living that way.
Lydia, has your father ever shown affection for you?
Oh, yes.
How?
Well, today he did this to me.
I see. Has he ever said he likes you?
Well, not in exactly those words.
What does he say?
Well, you know, when he comes home, he says, "Arrgh," and then he does the chin thing to me.
You poor child. And then he draws these terrible sketches of you.
Well, they're not terrible. That's the way my daddy draws. Once he tried to draw a picture of the Mona Lisa, and the nose came out too big, so he turned it into a drawing of Irving.
Irving?
Well, that's our dog. He keeps biting my father.
Good for Irving.
Well, he doesn't mean it. It's just a game. Anyway, they pay my father to draw like that, so I guess he has to.
Lydia, you've been deprived of a father's love, and it's perverted your whole sense of values.
Yes, ma'am.
You poor dear.
Miss Skidmore,
Yes?
I don't know what humiliate means.
It means to humble.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Don't tell Leonard.
John?
Did you ever come home and know before you entered that something unpleasant was lurking inside waiting for you? Your mother's here. My mother's here? Worse? The coward dies 1,000 deaths. The valiant die but one.
The principal wants to see you.
I am not going to write this year's PTA show. I simply cannot think of any more clever epigrams for Tilly Toothbrush to say to Morton Moldy Molar.
That's not what he wants to see you about.
Good heavens. Do you think someone finally noticed?
Noticed what?
That word I wrote on the wall of the boys' room 30 years ago. If I wrote it today, I'd win the Pulitzer Prize.
John, this is not just a teacher who wants to see you. This is the principal.
Helen, school principals today are not the rigid, unyielding martinets they were when I was a boy. No, they're modern educators with logical and open minds.
He wants to see you in his office right after school.
No question about it. 30 years later, and those words still send cold chills down your spine. As a child, I would have been terrified to knock on this door. Thank goodness I'm a grown adult man, and the principal is a grown adult man, and we're going to have a grown adult conversation about a very trivial problem. I'm sure we are.
Come in. Mr. Monroe, I've been waiting to see you.
I'm sorry if I'm a bit late. Well, I hope you won't keep me after school.
I'm afraid the archaic authoritarians of the past have created the undeserved stigma for the present. The old methods created more harm than good.
Well, I'm sure that we can discuss my daughter like two grown adult men and come to a sensible conclusion.
Well, of course we can, Mr. Monroe. We have a common interest in a common problem.
We certainly do. We certainly do.
Lydia, question. Not so? The final solution is obvious. If you do exactly as I say.
Something about that fella rings a bell. I just can't quite put my finger on it.
No. A child's affections are not to be trifled with.
Well, sir, let me assure you that I have never consciously trifled with them.
So? Have you ever had met her a fatherly talk? Have you ever explained to her from love and marriage so she is able to pick for herself a good husband? Not a dummkopf like her father!
Well, as a matter of fact, I've prepared a whole group of drawings for her that...
Drawings. And now you have drawn this gestunkene cartoon about your daughter for your gestunkene magazine? Well, I'm disenchanted too. We're all disenchanted. You have destroyed her psyche! Exhibit A, destruction of the psyche.
Oh, that's not true. She's a perfectly normal little girl.
Normal? She has no ears. Nobody has ears.
Well, that's because I don't draw them very well, so I just don't bother.
How can you communicate with your daughter when she doesn't even have ears?
It's only a drawing, you see.
It is your unconscious, subconscious, which wants to destroy your own child. Am I right? Am I? You see? You're guilty. You don't even have an answer for me.
Yes, I do. I can answer you in one word.
Well, what is it?
You'll have to step down the hall. It's written on the wall of the boys' room.
You will take down your pants and assume the angle.
Now, wait a minute. I'm not a child.
Today, your rear end. Tomorrow, the world!
Tomorrow, the world and society will appear to Lydia as either friend or antagonist, depending upon how we handle her here today. Can I get you some coffee?
I beg your pardon?
Coffee?
Oh, yes, of course. Whatever you say. Thank you.
Actually, Miss Skidmore was a lot more upset about this whole thing than I was. She was all prepared to run to the Board of Education and start a, great big hug-a-mugger about the whole thing. Some cake?
Well, I shouldn't really.
Shall I twist your arm?
No. just a small piece.
Yeah, I've spoken to your daughter several times, and she seems like a very well-adjusted little girl. It appears that you have a remarkably good relationship.
Thank you.
If you want to see a communications problem, why, you just take a peek at my wife and me and our 3 little children. Well, the smallest one, the boy, you know, always wants to argue. Whatever you say to him, he's got an argument. I suppose we'll solve it as always if we all just keep an open mind. You know, I've seen your wife several times at the PTA meeting. Seems like a fine woman.
Oh, she is. She is.
Talk to the children, my wife always says. You must talk to them, Otto.
Chuck them under their little chins.
Yours too? Toss them in the air.
Yours too?
Get to know them. Well, I've gotten to know them all right, little monsters. Then, of course, I come to school here every day, and I face a couple hundred more.
You know, Otto, we taxpayers ought to really double your salary.
You do understand. How about a little something extra in the coffee, huh?
Don't mind if I do.
John? I told Lydia you wanted to have a little father-daughter chat with her finally.
Oh. Well, I've just finished your birthday present.
My birthday was a week ago.
At one point, the Apollo project was 18 months behind schedule, but we got to the moon, didn't we? If you'll excuse us. I have neglected you.
Well, I've neglected you. Perfectly normal, isn't it?
I must say that there are advantages to a casual, easy relationship, but your mother tells me that it's my duty to prepare you for love and marriage.
I doubt that I'm going to get married for a while. I hit Leonard again yesterday. I think he bled a little.
The love-hate syndrome is often prelude to a proposal. It is later than you think. Anyway, I've written this little parable, illustrated, that handles the whole sticky business admirably.
Are you going to read it all to me now?
I don't mind. Once upon a time, in a far country, there lived a king whose daughter was the prettiest princess in the world. Her eyes were like the cornflower. Her hair was sweeter than the hyacinth, and her throat made the swan look dusty.
She doesn't have any ears.
I guess there's a little Otto Schultz in all of us, isn't there? Now, the queen and the entire kingdom were angry because the king didn't spend hours talking with the princess when he came home from a hard day at the throne room. Everyone thought they weren't communicating because they had their own language. It's not called English or Russian or Uzbekistani. It is called understanding. And it is conveyed by a lift of the eyebrow, a wink, or the hint of a smile. From the time she was a year old, the princess and the king would communicate in this way. Of course, no one else knew. Why don't you read this part?
On every birthday, the princess was showered with expensive toys made of gold or platinum or diamonds or emeralds. Now that's what I call a childhood.
Well, the king, you realize, paid no income tax, and repairs to his horse were borne by the kingdom.
Oh. And of course the king felt even though his subjects lavished all this attention on her, he had winked and eyebrow lifted sufficiently to give the princess a good, sensible set of values. On the day the princess was 18, the king announced he would give his daughter's hand in marriage to the prince who brought her the gift she liked most. The princes arrived at the palace on swift white stallions.
They presented the princess with great jewel boxes made of platinum and sapphires and encrusted with 1,000 diamonds.
Thank you. They're groovy.
Now, the last prince was much stronger and handsomer than the others, but he was the son of a poor king whose realm had been overrun by mice and locusts and wizards and mining engineers. He brought her a small tin box filled with mica and feldspar and other worthless stones he'd picked up on the way.
I have seen jewels all my life, but I've never seen a small tin box filled with mica or feldspar and other worthless stones. It's groovy.
Now, Princess, you must select the gift you like best and marry the prince who brought it.
The crowd held its breath. They worried the princess would not have a good, sensible set of values because apparently she and the king had never communicated in their lives.
I think I'll take the platinum and sapphire and diamond jewel box.
Tell them why, Princess.
The way I figure it is this. Anybody who is strong and handsome and his father is king and he is still broke and rides an old plow horse must be a hippie at heart, and he will borrow my jewels and run off with the royal chambermaid. While a prince who has saved enough money to buy me platinum and sapphires and diamonds must love me very much like my father and have a good head for the stock market so my children won't go hungry. Am I right?
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Even the queen realized they had apparently communicated, which they had, in their own way. So the princess married the first prince that same day. And the king was very sad to lose his daughter, but he didn't have to tell her that because all he did was raise an eyebrow at the wedding. And she knew.
That's a good story.
Happy birthday. I didn't have time to wrap it.
Bye. I had a feeling he'd say that.